Hello Seekers and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alice Estrella Strange and today I want to have a casual chat or possibly a total rant depending on how I end up taking this video about close-mindedness in the spiritual and occult spaces and where we draw the line between real and absolute nonsense. Before we hop in, I'd like to invite you to sign up for my email newsletter, Letters from the In-Between. Every week you'll receive an email to support my latest video with insights and guidance and free gifts to go along with it. If that sounds good to you, the link is in the description below. And if you were thinking about subscribing, this is your friendly reminder to do so, but of course, no pressure. Now, let's get into it. So really, the heart of this video is real and nonsense. Where do we draw the line between what's real and what's nonsense? I think it's really important to draw this line. It's absolutely important for us to discern what is helpful information, what is real information, what is trolling in this era of being online, and really parse out the things that are right for us and what aren't right for us. So in this video, okay, the point I want to make here is there really is an epidemic of close-mindedness in the online spiritual and occult spaces. We tend to have the things within our own box of beliefs, and we're like, this is my thing, and I believe in these things. And if something is outside of that box, people tend to get really defensive, really activated, and it takes this sort of attacking, like people tend to attack others for their beliefs, when really sometimes these beliefs are just any other belief, they just make that person uncomfortable. So I have an example for you today, really just to give you a tangible, real thing in real life that a lot of people have some feelings about. And yeah, maybe this video is going to be a hot take. Maybe this video is going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm totally ready for that. Bring it on. But of course, please be respectful in the comments. Please be kind. We're all here to explore and learn and discuss, and I'm happy to hear your point of view. But let's be kind. Okay, let's get into it. So the example I have for you today is a community of people called Otherkin. All right. And if you've never heard of Otherkin or any of the subtypes under this umbrella term, I'll give you some definitions. So an Otherkin is a person who identifies in some way as being a creature other than human. This is an umbrella term that encompasses all non-human identity. This identity is either psychological in nature for some or spiritual in nature for some. We're obviously going to be focusing on the spiritual side of things since this is a spiritual magical channel. Another term that is possibly one you've heard of if you're in these sort of spaces on the online world is Therian, which is a person who identifies as a non-human animal. Hey everyone, this is Editing Alice. As I'm going through the video, I'm realizing I didn't explain this very well. I wanted to add here that when I say identify as an animal, what I mean here from the spiritual perspective is people who believe they have the soul of a wolf or a cat or a whatever it is, fill in the blank here. This is a soul identity for a lot of people, and it's beyond just an identity that they choose to be silly or nonsensical. The journey to accepting this part of yourself for a lot of Otherkin and Therians is such a difficult journey. And so I wanted to add a little deeper layer here to explain that this isn't just an identity that people choose for giggles. This is something that people feel in their soul, at least some of them. And so I wanted to add a little bit more empathy into this so that we can sort of come to a kinder understanding of it. This is a soul identity. This is something people feel about themselves at a soul level. And I think most spiritual individuals and occult individuals can agree that we know what it's like to feel something at a soul level. So just wanted to add this in for a little extra clarity. Now back to the video. I think a lot of people get up in arms, really up in arms, when they're like, you identify as an animal? What the fuck? Like, people get really, really upset. And I can understand why. It's uncomfy. It's an unusual topic. It's something that we don't hear of a lot. And if you have heard of it, it's probably from the media, which is always portraying it in the most inflammatory, upsetting way. These things, we know this about media. The media does edit things and add background noise and all this stuff to make things feel really, really silly or stupid if they want to. It's very easy to manipulate the human mind with just a simple background track over someone talking. Like, it's very easy. So most people who have heard of Otherkin or Therians or any of the other subtypes generally hear of it through inflammatory media, which is a problem. This is a problem because we are intentionally being swayed to view it in a certain light. And this is where I come in to say, looking at something like this and just taking it for how the media is portraying it without doing any of your own exploration, without talking to people within the community, without doing some research, this is problematic. This is how we get close-minded in spiritual and occult spaces. Not just with this one topic, but lots of things. There's always good apples and bad apples within a community. That includes the spiritual and occult communities. This also includes people who will take the role, the label of Otherkin or Therian or whatever, and use it as a means to troll, because anyone can be anonymous online, and it's just a mess out there. So let's talk a little bit more about why I think we should be a little more kind and understanding to people who identify as Otherkin. And on a grander scale, just learning to be a little more open-minded and stretch our comfort zone and really question things. So thinking about Therians and Otherkin, the people in these communities that I know of, all of them really come to me with the explanation of, I have had a past life. I have had a past life as a cat or a wolf or whatever fill in the blank you want to put here. And I carry that past life into this one. So let's talk about past lives for a minute. Past lives and reincarnation are something that is very normalized in spiritual and occult spaces nowadays. And if we are to believe that reincarnation is possible, if we are to believe that we can carry weight and trauma from past lives, wounds from past lives, information, whatever it is, then how can we be so close-minded to think that we've never lived a life as an animal? I think, first of all, if that's your take, then that's kind of silly. Not to be offensive in any means, but truly, if you believe reincarnation is possible and is real, we kind of have to assume that we've had past lives as non-human things, non-human animals. So if this is the case, then why is it so hard to believe that someone could have been an animal in a past life, and that is the past life that they carry forward today? That is the one that's most present in their day-to-day life. Another point I have for you on the idea of this being somewhat grounded in our spiritual reality, our occult reality, is think about shamans and shamanic practitioners way back all the way to present day. There have been accounts and reports and people who talk about shapeshifting. When they are in their journeying and journeys, they are able to shapeshift into animals. This is something that was very common in like druidic practices back in the day. Lots of really ancient shamanic traditions do talk about the ability to take on the form of an animal when you are in that altered state of consciousness, okay? This is just another level of like why we shouldn't be so close-minded, right? And even beyond that, we have plenty of indigenous people from all over the world who identify very closely with an animal. They take that for their name. Like, it is something that is very deeply tied to their spiritual and religious beliefs. And I don't mean to say that everyone who is an Otherkin or a Therian or something else under the umbrella is a shamanic practitioner. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is something that is tied to human nature. This is something that is tied to human nature all the way back to ancient times. So again, maybe let's be a little more flexible with our mindset. And overall, my biggest complaint with this whole thing is, where are we drawing the arbitrary line? Where is your arbitrary line in the sand between this is normal, this is real, I believe this, of course it's real, and this is absolute nonsense, this is bananas, this is crazy town? Where is the arbitrary line? And why is it there? Why is it there? Because we're always going to not know until we know. Does that make sense? You don't know until you know. And if you've never heard of this before, then how could you know it's real? How could you know it's a thing? If you've never had a rational, level-headed conversation with someone about it who is either of the community or very closely tied to the community, how are you going to know? Because secondhand, third-hand, through the grapevine information, something that is portrayed by media to be ridiculous and to be something that we can laugh at and point fingers at, this is a problem. This is a problem. We really do need to be getting our information from people within certain communities or within a tradition that we're trying to learn about, within a belief that we are trying to learn about, or not even learn about, but just discern. Discern, is this real? Is this nonsense? And of course, we need to go into these conversations having an open mind and actually being willing to learn and have our own beliefs challenged. I think challenging our beliefs is such an important part of a magical practice, of a spiritual practice, especially if you're an eclectic practitioner. If you're a chaos practitioner like myself, this is probably your bread and butter. But even if you are not, it is really important for us to challenge our own beliefs, really to challenge our own beliefs and question, where does this come from? Why do I believe this? And is this possibly an old rigid mindset? Is this something that I'm not willing to let go of because of something else? Or is it just not for me? Is it just not true in my world, in my belief set? Which is fine. First of all, absolutely fine. You could listen to everything in this video, be like, Therian, Otherkin, nonsense, BS, and that's fine. You can believe that. I'm not going to tell you any different. That is up to you. And still, there are very real people out here who live these lives and experience this in a very visceral way. So at least be kind. At the very least, be kind. We live in a world that is full of closed-mindedness and thrives on polarizing people and finding a scapegoat, finding someone to put down so that we can feel better. Like, this is the state of the world. And if you are someone who does not like the state of the world, who does not want everyone to be polarized and fighting and angry at each other and always blaming something on someone else, if that's not your bread and butter, that's not your jam, then I need you to be a little more open-minded, and I need you to start spreading the love. Even if you don't agree with something, even if you don't think something fits your worldview, please, at the very least, be kind. At the very least, be kind. Any opportunity we have in this day and age to be kind and be heart first and just be accepting, just be loving to people that we don't know. You never know what kind of day someone's having, right? And you never know what kind of life someone's lived. And there is absolutely no reason to be spreading anger and calling people crazy for a belief system bonkers for a belief system. There are, of course, cases and places where people will be spreading beliefs that are actually harmful, that are actually problematic. That is a place and a case where you can step forward and say, all right, this is kind of problematic. Like, if you're someone who wants to do that, I see this as like a very different thing. There are beliefs that are problematic and hurtful and harmful, and then there are belief systems that are just different. Different isn't wrong. Different isn't scary even. It can be uncomfortable, but it's only because you're unfamiliar with it. The unknown is uncomfortable. And so learning to sit in the discomfort of a belief system that isn't yours is a really, really good way to strengthen your own beliefs and your own practice, whether or not you even want to take anything from that conversation. So now let's just talk about, like, what do you do with this information? What do you do with this moving forward? Valid question. First, I want to talk to people who do not identify as any sort of otherkin. And this is a call to think of this as archetype work. Like, if this, okay, let me talk about myself for a moment. I have found that looking into the animals that I really do resonate with, that I really, really identify with. Of course, we'll talk a minute about the difference between identifying with and as. So if I find an animal that I really identify with and I feel called to, there is an incredible book. Hold on. There is an incredible book by Ted Andrews called Animals Speak. I highly, highly, highly recommend you check this book out, not just for this purpose, but learning all about different types of animals and their medicines, and learning how to read signs from animals, learning how to read signs from, you know, a certain animal crossing your path, right? Everyone's always freaking talking about, what does it mean? This animal, blah, blah, blah. This is the book to go to. And it's also a really good guide on starting to connect with your personal power animal, totem animal, whatever you want to call it. So highly recommend this book. It's the first book I ever got on my spiritual journey, and it is one that I will never stop reading. I need to get another copy because this one is literally falling apart. So get a copy of Animal Speak if you can, or go to reputable websites that are not all clickbaity and fantastical things that have like actual tangible good knowledge on the spiritual meanings and properties of different animals. But start to dive into what animals you feel really called to and what they mean. Like, what are their properties? For example, I feel really called to foxes. I identify with foxes. For me, I recently revisited foxes in Animal Speak, and there were so many things within this entry that I was just like, dang, I forgot all about this, and it feels so real. Something about fox medicine is the ability to shapeshift or become invisible. And this is something I do find is increasingly present as I develop my spiritual abilities, my energy work, manipulation, those sort of things. I do tend to find that I can kind of sink into any space I'm in. If I'm with a bunch of 60-year-old women, I can become just like a 60-year-old woman for a moment and really fit into the vibe. If I'm with a bunch of kids, like, I know how to mirror people around me, and it is something that's very natural for me. That is something that comes with being really closely tied to a fox totem. Something else, like, this is just an example of what you may find if you dive in. Something about the fox entry, there's, of course, so many reasons and why and where this information comes from, where we see it, but something about people with a fox totem is that they probably had their biggest challenges in childhood, but it gave them the strength and resilience to do whatever they're really set their mind to in their adult life. And yeah, this was kind of like one of those bits of information that slapped me in the face, and then I was like, this is really validating, honestly. So find a copy of Animal Speak, check it out. It's available online in bookstores and places. Just start diving into the animals you identify with. Now let's talk about the with versus as. just because you identify with an animal, like, man, I really love wolves because that loyalty and that strength, that fierceness. I really love otters for their playfulness. Like, you can identify with an animal, certain aspects of it. But if you are someone who is Otherkin or Therian, there's a difference. You identify as an animal when you're in that community. And we do need to be careful. We do need to be respectful that this is a community that is often targeted by just random trolls and people who have obviously miserable lives. So in your exploration, please do be respectful. If you feel really interested in these topics, I don't really have any communities to recommend you, but I do have, there's an Otherkin subreddit, which actually has some pretty good information. Actually, I'll put a link down in the description if you want to learn just like a really quick overview. I found a really good post on Reddit, so I'll send that your way. It'll be in the description if you want to learn more about this. But please, in this process, be very respectful to people who really are in the community and understand that there is a difference. There's a big difference between identifying as an animal and identifying with an animal. So again, we just do need to be respectful of communities that are often taken advantage of. And lastly, if you do not identify as an Otherkin, the last like bit of what do you do with this information I have for you is, if this video made you uncomfy, first of all, congrats for being here. Congrats for being here. You're a real one. But if this video made you uncomfy, explore why. Why is it? Is it the media thing? Is it media that's portrayed this like nonsensical cuckoo bananas person as an Otherkin or a Therian? Is it a personal bad experience with someone in the community? And if so, is it just that person, or is it their beliefs? Is it the community overall, or is it that one person that just didn't make you feel great? And you know, maybe the reason is it's cringe. If you're sitting there like, that's so cringe, I need you to really, this is going to be hard to hear if this is you, but I need you to hear me. If you're sitting there thinking, ooh, this is really cringe, that's so uncomfy, I really need you to reflect on your own fears and your own feelings about yourself. Because if you're sitting there thinking, oh, this is cringe, it's probably because you don't think you could ever show up in that way. Or you're thinking, if I showed up in that way, it would be cringe. And that is more of a reflection of you than anyone else. And that's uncomfy. That is uncomfy. And if that's the first time you've realized that, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But also, this is a really good thing to remember in life overall, that if someone thinks the way you're living your life or what you're doing or saying is cringe or weird or then like, that's more about them. They're probably a little less comfortable in their authenticity. They're probably a little less comfortable just doing whatever the heck they want and not giving a flying frick about what anybody else says about that. So if the reason you feel uncomfortable around Otherkins and Therians and this community is because it's weird or it's cringe or whatever else your brain is filling in the blank with, I really, really encourage you to reflect on putting yourself in that community's shoes and really questioning, is it the belief system? Is it the community as a whole? Or is it your own feelings about yourself showing up in that way? And that's, again, fine. We all have things in life that we feel that way about. I know I do. So it's okay to be there, but also recognize that those are your own feelings, more about yourself, and move forward with kindness and understanding and acceptance for different beliefs. We don't have to believe the same thing to accept each other. As long as we're all being kind and practicing responsibly, saying and teaching things that are not harmful or problematic, then we should all be golden here. Now, if you are someone within the Otherkin community what I would like to tell you at the end of this video is, if you're not already aware, the Otherkin community is hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with spirituality and the occult. Like, this is just a perfect little mesh. And I also want to say that, like, as a Therian or an Otherkin, etc., you already have a pretty good, like, spiritual connection just naturally, and you know yourself really well, which is something a lot of us out here really don't have. Like, it is a level of knowing yourself at a soul level that is unmatched by unmatched by a lot of people in this world. And that is a skill. That is a skill. It's not always comfy, doesn't always feel like a gift, but it is still something that you should pat yourself on the back for. Like, truly being able to know that about yourself and not repress it, not shove it down into your, like, shadow self and, like, no, we don't look at this thing. And I'll also say, I know a lot of people out there did not have a choice. Kind of just happened. And even still, it happened that way for a reason. It was meant for you, and I'd ask you to be kind with yourself in the process. It is a lifelong process, and yeah, just know that it's really a gift spiritually to be that in tune with your true essence, your soul. And something else I have for you is, I really encourage you to dive a little deeper into yourself with some spiritual practices. Meditation is actually a really, really powerful tool to kind of get outside yourself and do all sorts of things. And so if you are someone within the Otherkin community and you don't meditate, you aren't doing those visualization journeys, I really do encourage you. Of course, like, meditation is a skill, but there are plenty of guided visualizations all over YouTube. The Insight Timer app is a really good one. I like that one. Definitely not sponsored, but I do like that app. I use it. And practicing meditating, getting in touch with your self, your inner self, and starting to get your visualization skills up to par and nice and strong. And you really can just go out there and be that version of yourself. You really can be the wolf in the woods or the deer in the field, right? Or whatever other kin you identify as. It is possible. And there are plenty of spiritual practices that help you to get in touch with your true self, your core self. There's just so many things you can do within these spiritual and occult spaces to take this this thing you know about yourself, this thing that you've realized, and use it to your advantage, harness it for your own well-being. It's a really, really great way, in my opinion, to kind of integrate this into your life a little more fully. And finally, my last recommendation is find communities. If you are out there feeling alone as an Otherkin, if you are, I mean, that's kind of just the gist, right? But I encourage you to start exploring. Goodness, it's been many years. It's been many, many years. But I was once invited to a group on a college campus close to where I lived, and they had an Otherkin and Therian group just for college students that was open to anyone in the community. And it was a really cool space. These were all such lovely people, so kind, so gentle and sweet, and they were all so unique and fun. Great. Loved that. Again, it was like a long, long time ago, so don't know what those spaces look like nowadays with the way the internet has shaped our way of communicating with others, but I'm sure that they're out there. And if you are going online to find these communities, again, be careful about where you're looking and know that trolls abound. If you have nowhere else to go, I do I do have a Discord community where you are more than welcome to join. I know we have at least one closeted Otherkin within our community, so you are more than welcome to join us and speak about it if you wish, or say absolutely nothing if you wish. Totally up to you. but it is a safe space. No matter what background, no matter what belief system you have, as long as you're kind and open-minded and willing to coexist within our little community ecosystem, you're more than welcome to be there. I guess this whole video is just like, be freaking nice to people. Be nice and be open-minded, and really examine where you're drawing your arbitrary line in the sand between what's real and what's not real, because truly things are only as real as we believe them to be. Maybe that doesn't really land for you, but what I mean here is you get to choose what's real and what's not real in your own mind, in your own life, but you do not get to choose what is real or not real for other people. And it is really, really important in this day and age, in a world that wants all of us to be mad at each other and pointing fingers at each other, to just be kind and understanding and accepting of other people. Listen, ask questions genuinely, listen, and be kind. There's no reason someone else's beliefs cancel out your own. And I really want you to take that home. Just because someone believes something different than you does not mean your beliefs are any less real or any less valid. And I guess that is all I have for you today. That was quite the rant. What a journey. I would love for you to share in the comments what animal you identify with, or animals, or what animal you identify as, if you feel like it. And if you're interested in additional insights or guidance on this topic, joining my free live events or my Discord community, it's all in the newsletter, which you can find the link for down in the description. If you like this content and you want to catch more upcoming magic, this is your final friendly reminder to subscribe if you'd like. Thanks for stopping by my channel. May the energy you give return to you in abundance, and may you always perpetually grow. Stay curious, friends. See you in the next one.